My neighbor died 11 months ago. I know that because I attended his funeral. I stood beside his daughter. I watched the coffin being lowered into the ground. I watched people cry. I watched them say goodbye. And I watched the cemetery workers cover the grave with dirt. Mr. Walker was dead. Everyone knew it, which is why what happened next makes absolutely no sense. Because every night at exactly 9:15 p.m., I still saw him sitting on his front porch, watching my house. My name is Jason Miller. I'm 32 years old. I live in a quiet neighborhood outside Indianapolis. Nothing unusual ever happened here. No murders, no disappearances, no ghost stories, just ordinary people living ordinary lives. One of those people was Arthur Walker. Everyone called him Mr. Walker. He was 74, a widower, retired, and a man who followed the exact same routine every single day at precisely 9:15 p.m. He would sit in the rocking chair on his front porch every night, without fail, rain, snow, thunderstorms. It didn't matter. At 9:15 p.m., Mr. Walker sat on that porch. Then one December night, he suffered a heart attack. The paramedics arrived. The ambulance arrived, but it was too late. Mr. Walker died before reaching the hospital. A week later, his daughter locked the house and moved away. The electricity was disconnected. The mailbox stopped filling. The grass slowly grew taller. The house became empty. Or at least, it should have. Almost 11 months passed. Then one night I was sitting in my living room watching television. The clock read 9:15 p.m. Without thinking, I glanced across the street and nearly dropped my coffee. Someone was sitting in Mr. Walker's chair. My first thought was simple. Someone bought the house. Maybe a relative moved in. But as I stepped closer to the window, my stomach tightened. The figure looked familiar, too familiar. Same gray jacket, same posture, same white hair, same face. Mr. Walker. The dead man was sitting on his porch, watching the street, exactly like he always had. Then the porch light flickered once, twice, and when it came back on, the chair was empty. I didn't sleep that night. The next evening, I prepared myself. At 9:10 p.m., I grabbed my phone. At 9:15 p.m., he appeared again, sitting motionless, watching. This time, I recorded everything, 10 full minutes. When he disappeared, I immediately watched the footage, and my blood ran cold. The chair was visible, the porch was visible, the light was visible, but Mr. Walker wasn't. The recording showed an empty porch the entire time. I watched it 5 times, then 10. Nothing. No man, no movement, nothing. Yet I knew what I'd seen. The following weekend, I called Mr. Walker's daughter. At first, she seemed happy to talk. Then I mentioned seeing lights at the house. Her voice changed immediately, quiet, nervous, almost frightened. Then she asked me something strange. "Jason, have you been looking out your window at night?" A chill ran down my spine. "Why?" Several seconds passed, then she sighed. "My father used to keep journals." "What kind of journals?" "The kind people write when nobody believes them." I laughed nervously. She didn't. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. My father believed something watched him every night. I froze. "What?" He said there was a man standing across the street. I looked out my window. The street was empty. Yet suddenly it didn't feel empty. "What did the man look like?" Her answer came instantly. The man looked exactly like whoever was looking at him. 2 days later, a package arrived. Inside were 7 notebooks, Mr. Walker's journals. The oldest one dated back to 1978. I spent the entire night reading them. The first entries seemed normal: gardening, weather, neighborhood events. Then everything changed. August 14th, 1982. Tonight I saw him again. September 3rd, 1982. He was standing across the street. November 11th, 1983. He's closer than before. February 19th, 1987. I finally saw his face. The next line made my hands shake. He had my face. I kept reading. The entries became increasingly disturbing. Year after year, decade after decade. The same figure, always closer, always watching, always wearing Mr. Walker's face. I decided to set up a security camera facing the house. The next morning, I reviewed the footage. At first, everything seemed normal. Then 9:15 p.m. arrived. Mr. Walker appeared on the porch. The camera captured him perfectly. For the first time, I nearly fell out of my chair. Then things became worse. 9:16 p.m. He stood up. 9:17 p.m. He stepped off the porch. 9:18 p.m. He crossed the street. My heart nearly stopped because I had watched the house all night. Nobody crossed the street, yet the footage clearly showed him walking toward my home. 9:19 p.m. He stopped directly in front of the camera, then smiled. The video suddenly ended, not corrupted, not glitched, ended as if someone manually stopped recording. That night, I entered Mr. Walker's house. The front door was still locked. I climbed through a basement window. Dust covered everything. Nothing had been touched for months. Then I heard it, a rocking chair, slowly moving back and forth, back and forth. The sound came from upstairs. I followed it step by step. The second floor was empty, but the rocking sound continued. Then I found a notebook on his bedroom desk. Unlike the others, this one contained only a few pages. The final entry was written 3 days before his death. It read, "If you're reading this, he's chosen you." The next page, "Every year he gets closer." Another page, "I made the mistake of watching him." Then the last page, the final words Arthur Walker ever wrote. "If I appear on the porch after my death, do not look outside." At that exact moment, the rocking chair sound stopped. Silence filled the house. Then came 3 knocks. From the front porch. Knock, knock, knock. I was inside the house, which meant whatever knocked was outside, exactly where Mr. Walker used to sit. I ran. I don't remember how I got home. I only remember locking every door, closing every curtain, and refusing to look outside. For weeks, I avoided every window in the house. I kept the blinds shut. I stopped sitting near the front room, and every night at 9:15 p.m., I made sure I was nowhere near a window. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and eventually, nothing happened. No porch light, no shadow, no strange sightings. Slowly, I convinced myself it was over. Maybe Mr. Walker's journals had gotten inside my head. Maybe grief and fear had made me imagine things. Maybe there had never been anything watching me at all. Then came October 14th, exactly 1 year after the first time I saw him. That night, a storm rolled through the neighborhood. Rain hammered against the roof. Thunder shook the windows, and the power went out. The entire house fell into darkness. I sat alone in my living room, listening to the rain, listening to the wind, waiting for the electricity to return. Then I looked at the clock. 9:15 p.m. My stomach tightened. For a moment, I thought about checking the window. Just one quick look, just to prove to myself that nothing was there. But I remembered the journals. I remembered Mr. Walker's warning. If I appear on the porch after my death, do not look outside. So I stayed where I was. Minutes passed. 9:16 p.m., 9:17 p.m., 9:18 p.m. Then I heard a sound, a slow, rhythmic, creaking noise. Back and forth, back and forth. My blood turned cold because I knew that sound. It was a rocking chair, the exact same sound Mr. Walker's chair used to make every night. But it wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from somewhere inside my house. I froze, listening, back and forth, back and forth. Slowly, the sound stopped. The silence that followed felt worse than the noise. Then I remembered something, a page near the end of Mr. Walker's journal, a page I'd almost forgotten. My hands started shaking because suddenly I remembered the final warning, the warning he had written only days before he died. The moment you stop seeing him across the street, he's no longer across the street. My heart nearly stopped. The room felt colder, much colder. Then I heard breathing right behind me. A long, slow, icy breath. I couldn't move. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run, but I couldn't. I was completely frozen. Then another memory surfaced. One final line. A line written in shaky handwriting at the very bottom of the page. A line I hadn't understood until now. When he enters your house, he takes your face. My hands trembled slowly. I lifted my eyes toward the dark window in front of me and saw my reflection staring back. At first, everything looked normal. Then I noticed something impossible. I wasn't smiling, but my reflection was a small smile, slowly growing wider and wider and wider until it stretched across its face. I couldn't breathe. The reflection tilted its head slightly. Then it whispered in my own voice, "Now it's your turn." At that exact moment, I felt a hand rest gently on my shoulder, cold, human, and standing directly behind me. I never turned around because deep down, I already knew what I would see, and sometimes not knowing is far less terrifying than the truth.